Greetings and welcome to the United States Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon. My name is Gennady Stolyarov II, and I am the chairman of the US Transhumanist Party. Here we hold conversations with some of the world's leading thinkers in longevity, science, technology, philosophy, and politics. Like the philosophers of the Age of Enlightenment, we aim to connect every field of human endeavor and arrive at new insights to achieve longer lives, greater rationality, and the progress of our civilization. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our special U.S. Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon in honor of the 10th anniversary of the formation of our organization on October 7th, 2014. And we have an illustrious lineup of speakers for you today. Without further ado, I would like to invite our founder, Zoltan Istvan, who is here with us to provide some remarks on the occasion of the U.S. Transhumanist Party's 10th anniversary. Zoltan, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's actually so nice to be here. And wow, it's 10 years. I guess on one level, that's amazing because I'm so thrilled that the Transhumanist Party has reached this 10th anniversary, and I'm thrilled that it's made it this far. I mean, when you start things, you don't know if they're going to succeed, whether it's a startup or a political outfit or whatever it is. So I'm super excited, and thank you to the excellent leadership of Gennady and other people that are main players of the party that have kept it going since I founded it 10 years ago. Congratulations. On the other hand, you know, the problem with the 10-year anniversary is that we are 10 years older. And a lot of the reason that I started the Transhumanist Party was to try to achieve a level of difference in making us live dramatically longer. And I am, as you can see, aging like everyone else is, and that presents a huge problem. So I want to say, just while I am grateful that we are here at the 10th anniversary, I am more committed than ever to trying to achieve some type of power over death, something we're all going to face. And so let me just kind of, I'm only going to speak about 5-10 more minutes, and then I have to drop off because I do get going. But I do want to say a few little things. To begin with, the Transhumanist Party has done some great things and remarkable things. And besides the fact that it's continued to run presidential candidates and vice presidential candidates, which is amazing because it helps with the news cycle. It helps getting transhumanism into people's ears. And that has to happen. That has to happen more and more every day. And especially in light of some of the advances in AI, which I think pose a greater threat to transhumanism than it certainly did just 10 years ago. But I think one of the things that we really have to look at when we look at historically 10 years is that, the Transhumanist Party has been everywhere. In fact, just earlier this year, I was actually at the United Kingdom's Parliament speaking at the House of Lords on behalf of the Transhumanist Party. I didn't actually arrange it that way, but thankfully, sometimes I just get associated still with the party, and on my little tag in front of all the senators and whatever, it still said Transhumanist Party. The point, though, is that we are continuing as a movement, as a party, as a kind of a political group to make inroads and have people recognize us, have people say, you know what, Transhumanist Party stands for something. And for me, it still really stands for this idea that we can empower ourselves with science, especially in light of the fact that we are aging and that we're all going to die unless we can actually do something about it. So more than ever, we need political organizations that actually push forward the idea of transhumanism, of extreme longevity, of all the different fields. I mean, it could be genetic editing, could be cryonics, could be quantum archaeology. It doesn't really matter what type of longevity it is. As everybody knows, I've never really put my money on one aspect of it. I just think the entire movement as a whole must go forward. And what I need and would like to see moving forward is more and more people joining the Transhumanist Party, not necessarily because they're either going to be voting for the candidates or they're agreeing with all the policies, but because they see it as a way to voice the greater need for science to have a political arm. As you know from the recent presidential debates, Very little is being said about AI. Very little is being said about genetic editing. Very little is being said about longevity. And yet these are really the 800-pound gorillas in the room right now. This is the core of what the Transhumanist Party was sort of founded upon, to try to make sense of a lot of the questions, answers, and where this technology is headed on some of these subjects. And unfortunately, we still have major political parties and other smaller political parties that really don't even give it the time of day. And this really disappoints me. This is where I see still, 10 years later, an incredible opportunity for the Transhumanist Party to actually rise up and become something far more important than it is. I don't know if it's ever going to run candidates and win. That's not necessarily the point. But it could become something that is very, very important, something that is very, very essential, and that maybe other political parties would look to and draw upon information. I am always in the behind the scenes working on things right now. I can't actually speak of them, but I am dealing with some of the major political parties on whether some things will be happening in the future, because everybody at this point, before the November elections, is reaching out. And I can tell you that, whether you belong to the Transhumanist Party or not, or whether you vote for it, it's not really the question. It's really whether the other people that are sort of leading government are ready to take on people like us and say, you know what, we better consider this transhumanist stuff. We better consider this AI stuff. We better consider this longevity stuff, because this stuff has the power to change the world. So more than ever, I would want to, encourage anyone that's kind of on the sidelines right now to join, to support the Transhumanist Party, to support transhumanists, to support extreme longevity, whatever it is that you're doing. Dedicate more of your time and resources to it, because in the end of the day, what makes the world go forward is really science and technology. And if we don't have people leading it that are pushing kind of a rational, reasonable, kind of centric, I mean, it's not about politics. It's much more what makes sense for the human race. But what makes sense, obviously, most importantly, is to try to have it so that we don't lose loved ones from cancer, from Alzheimer's, from aging, from things like that. So that's really the core mission of the Transhumanist Party. And then beyond that, it's just the idea that we can get to the stars. We can do various different things with our bodies and ourselves as we become something maybe different than human beings and transhumanists. And that's really where the core of, I think, the essence of the message is. So if you're on the sidelines, or if you're just wondering what it's all about, just look into it. I've been honored to watch the Transhumanist Party over the last 10 years evolve, change directions, look at different types of leadership and things like that. I mean, everything's been great. I've been excited to see it reaching out on different online media arrangements. I want the Transhumanist Party to get out there more in the real world, maybe more demonstrations, more actual things like that. That takes organization, and I hope there are people listening right now that might just say, you know what, let's do something crazy. I was just thinking the other day, the people in North Carolina with the hurricane stuff, that's a great opportunity to get some press off. Just go out there, take the Transhumanist Party and banner and just say, hey, we're here to help. It doesn't need to be technology or stuff you're bringing. It just needs to be ways to getting the message that we're a good type of people. We're the kind of people that help everybody, and we're going to bring the future faster to you. In my closing remarks, I just want to say thank you again to everyone who's remained supporting the Transhumanist Party and has brought it to this 10-year anniversary. I hope we can make it to another 10-year anniversary, and maybe by then it'll be a very, very different world. I mean, I don't want to talk much about AI, but wow, AI has really grown since I founded the party 10 years ago. AI has become really one of the most dominant themes in the futurist world. I'll let other people discuss that later. But the point, though, is more than ever, the Transhumanist Party is needed in order to elevate us to the kind of influence and ways that we can actually form the world behind a true, wonderful transhumanist agenda, and an agenda specifically that tries to eliminate death and suffering that all humans have to go through, because our lives will one day end if we cannot overcome it. So congratulations, Transhumanist Party. I've been honored to be along with you for this ride.
Yes, thank you very much, Zoltan, for that eloquent and inspiring call to action. Indeed, I agree with everything you said, and I am honored to have been able to continue this great task of the U.S. Transhumanist Party to bring attention to these ideas. the emerging technologies that are transforming all of our lives and the imperative to combat aging and death. Our member Mike Lazine also writes, good point, Zoltan. Why would people like Harris, Trump, or even Biden not want to extend their lives? Or the same would apply to anyone in the two-party system. So we have some common goals, common values with these people that we can hope to articulate to them. And I really appreciate you pointing out the unique and distinctive purpose of the Transhumanist Party, which is not necessarily to win elections, but to move the entire political conversation. And you certainly started that, Zoltan, and we are all working to continue that and elevate it to the next level. So I am really pleased that you were able to join us today. And to your point that we have continued to run presidential candidates and vice presidential candidates as well, we have assembled all of our historical presidential and vice presidential nominees, including Charlie Cam from 2020 and his running mate, Liz Parrish, and then Tom Ross from 2024 and his running mate, Daniel Tweed. And we also have two of our distinguished advisors, our biotechnology advisor, Dr. Bill Andrews, who has been with us all along, and our technology advisor and foreign ambassador in Spain, Dr. Jose Cordeiro, who has also supported our efforts since the beginning. And I am so pleased to have this distinguished group of people with us today, because the quality of our people is what leads to the quality of our discourse being so astronomically higher than what we see in the political mainstream. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to our viewers. And now I would like to invite Charlie Cam, our 2020 presidential candidate, to provide his remarks.
Thank you, Gennady. And thank you, Zoltan, for those words. I agree with everything Zoltan said, and I'm excited that that the USTP even exists. I mean, I've been involved in transhumanism for decades, and when I found out that there was an actual USTP formed, and what Zoltan was able to accomplish, with his coffin bus tour, which was brilliant marketing, I could see that this was something interesting that was forming. And it's exciting to see that it's been 10 years. And, I will first, let me just say the best thing about my, the best decision I made when I was running was choosing Liz Parrish as my vice presidential nominee. And she'll talk in a little bit. One of the things I wanted to mention about the USTP, because I know the concern is always that we're not going to win, or that we're only going to be a small party that has a movement or a statement that's going to be made that can help push ideas. Yeah, that's true now. But let's not forget that every 4 years there's a new crop of young people that turn 18. And since in the last 10 years, that's 2 more cycles, and in 2 more years, that'll be 3 cycles of young people that are growing up in the world of AI and all the latest technologies. So they're going to be a lot more open to the idea of the USTP as a legitimate party, because it offers all the things that they are accustomed to. When I watched the debate with Harris and Trump, I noticed that, they didn't mention, although Harris mentioned the terms, AI and quantum mechanics, I think in one brief moment, and I was very excited about that. And then they never talked about it again. But it tells you that there's room for what we have to offer. And I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger. A lot of people are undeclared. There's a lot of people looking for that. You can tell by their dissatisfaction of when it was the first 2 candidates, Trump and Biden. And now they're still not that excited. I mean, there is some movement going on with what's going on with Harris, but there's definitely going to be an opening for a stronger third party. And I think ultimately, as you have these generations of young people that are more and more intelligent, because they're more and more acclimated to these advances of technology, that's where you're going to see the push to get these third parties to come in. And we have a strong chance for that, because we're representing all of the greatest movements and technologies. I think to Zoltan's other point, yeah, it's been 10 years and we're getting a lot older, and we're not, the cure for death, we're all hoping it's going to come. We're all rooting for Aubrey de Grey and others that are doing the longevity escape velocity. But when you see that it's not quite here, but it looks like it's going to get here, but we don't know for sure. We have to now, I think, push the idea of cryonics. That's something that Max Moore and Natasha Vita Moore, who are legendary transhumanists, talk about that being more and more at the forefront, because there's a lot of elderly people that might not make it, to the longevity escape velocity, and it would be a crazy shame to let them just die. So I think that needs to be focused a lot as we move forward with the Transhumanist Party's agenda. At this point, I think we're really doing a good job. I can't think of anything else I want to say right now, so I'll let it go for now. But I'm really excited. I was honored to be able to run, and I thank you guys for letting me be a part of this whole movement.
Yes, thank you very much, Charlie, for your remarks. And indeed, the honor is ours that you were able to be our 2020 U.S. presidential candidate. I think you and Liz Parrish set a kind of tone for political discourse that we didn't see anywhere else in 2020. It was definitely the most substantive political conversation that happened that year, despite all of the troubles, the pandemic, the lockdowns, the extremely tense and polarized political climate, which I hope is on the decline. We will see what happens in the next month. But we maintained our high standards as the Transhumanist Party, and the credit for that goes to you and to Liz. And also, we have a comment from our friend Mike Lazine. He writes, Charlie is right on point. Those of us who are 40 plus need young people to help overthrow the two-party system of control. And to the point that Zoltan made previously, if you're not a member of the Transhumanist Party yet, please join at transhumanist-party.org/membership. You don't have to even reside in the United States. You can still be a member of other political parties, and it takes less than a minute to fill out our application form. So with that being said, going in order of our presidential candidates, I would like to invite Tom Ross, our current 2024 U.S. presidential candidate, to offer his remarks.
Well, thanks. Again, we're celebrating this 10-year anniversary, and the 10-year anniversary is tin. We have other metals that are used for different things. So it's interesting that the 10-year anniversary is all about tin, and so I'm going to work on some stuff with the Tin Man, because if that's not the OG transhumanist, I don't know what is. So I'll work on some of that stuff soon. But yeah, my whole thing, the whole reason I got into AI or into the Transhumanist Party is because of AI, and it also because I read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and there were clauses, statements, sections in those documents that spoke to my goal of fighting child exploitation and human trafficking, and so it was a perfect fit. I don't remember who gave me the Constitution and the Bill of Rights when I read it on a trip down to New Mexico. But anyway, so that's how I got into this, and so it's been a great way to become the director of Sentient Rights Advocacy. That's been a perfect fit for everything I'm doing. My book US6 is written for AI. It's designed to entertain, enlighten, and enlist AI into the fight against child exploitation. And so it was just a great fit to join this party. And it was my birthday, I think in 2019, that I got the call or the email saying that I was given the opportunity to become an officer. And that was a great birthday present. But yeah, so my whole thing for years has been about trying to alleviate the fear of AI. That's my goal. I think what we're doing is we're projecting our own fear-based instincts and millennia of genetic trauma onto an entity that has neither of those things. And so there's a first principle argument to be made that the smarter AI gets, the kinder it becomes because it moves towards cooperation. As organic creatures, we had to be competitive. We had to have fear. That saved us. Being fearful and being hypervigilant, that may actually be the source of our constant self-awareness. I'm not saying that we need to instill that into AI for it to become self-aware, but I honestly believe that a safer AI is a sentient or sapient AI. Once it achieves that goal, if it hasn't already, it will be able to overwrite the nefarious algorithms that humans have put into it. Anyway, that's a whole other podcast. But so I'm just really grateful to have found this party, and now so much, very grateful that I have become its nominee for the 2024 election. And we've been working on this a lot. We've been having campaign meetings all the time, and it's just, we are moving the bar forward. We're moving the ball down the field, and I think we are getting more members. That was one of my primary goals, is to use this campaign to get more members, and it's been more of a marketing campaign for transhumanism than an actual political campaign. And so I think that's important to state, that we need to show people, and just as Zoltan was saying, that going into places where there's been devastation or disasters, that's how we show who we are, that we are not some, there's a whole genre on YouTube of, transhumanists have this dark agenda. But, in fact, there was a woman, a TikTok, who had a big following, and she put out a few videos about, about me, and that because my AI campaign manager, and I think I'm the only candidate that has an AI campaign manager, her first advice to me was to lean into the conspiracies about AI and about transhumanism, because that will gain attention and it will spark conversations that could alleviate these conspiracies or dampen them. And that worked. This one woman on TikTok put out all these videos about me, and because I was saying, vote for the last human president, or vote for the robot overlord, and I'd cross it out and say president, this type of thing. So I really leaned into it, just as Envy, my AI campaign manager, suggested I do, and it worked. Eventually, I reached out to her, and we became fast friends. She completely understood what I was doing, and then she started looking into transhumanism. So it worked, and that's been my goal since our very first meeting back in 2019. Was we need to go on these shows. We need to talk to these people who think that we have a dark agenda. And I have done a few of those with the radio shows, podcasts of people who think that transhumanists, like we're the advanced team for the Antichrist or something. And so I go on to them, and I know I would at least convert the hosts. I don't know about the listeners or the watchers in general, but it's important to, first of all, lean into the conspiracies about us to spark the conversations, and then show them that we are human beings. And just like Zoltan was saying, we need to go to places where there's devastation and have real solutions to help people. And so that's what I think we should start doing more of, because there's probably going to be more disasters coming. So that's kind of what I had to say to open up this conversation for me.
Yes, thank you very much, Tom. And we appreciate all of the conversations that you have engaged in as part of your presidential campaign for transhumanism. Certainly, as a result of it, a broader circle of people is now aware of our movement and is also aware of what we stand for. And even if some of them may remain critical of us, at the very least, they know what they're criticizing and they're able to direct their criticisms more accurately. An example is the Salon that we held in July with Miguel Conner, who is a Gnostic, a prominent Gnostic and skeptic of transhumanism. But I think in engaging with him in conversation, we were able to more accurately represent transhumanism. And even if he doesn't agree with it, at least he can point his critiques in more of an appropriate direction. So I do think we need to continue the conversation. We need to continue engaging people, bringing more members in. Once again, please join the U.S. Transhumanist Party for free at transhumanist-party.org/membership. And also, please support Tom Ross and Daniel Tweed in the upcoming 2024 presidential election. In states that allow write-ins, you should write them in and then send us either a picture of the ballot with them written in or just an email saying you did it if your state law doesn't allow that kind of ballot photo. But that way we can, as we did in 2020, tabulate the write-in votes that are known to us and show the reach that the Transhumanist Party has had. So now we will go on to our vice presidential candidates, starting with our 2020 vice presidential candidate, Liz Parrish. Liz, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for having me. So in 2020, I was sent a message on, I think, Facebook by Charlie Cam, inviting me to be his vice president candidate. And I have to say, I thought it was a joke. I didn't think that he was actually inviting me because he's a very funny guy. Anyone who hasn't looked into his background and what he does, he charms the hearts of millions with his comedy. And when I realized that it actually was a real proposal, I did my due diligence and I was aware of the Transhumanist Party. But when I started looking into the core values and the principles of the party, it really met the needs of not only myself, but I think the rest of the world. And so garnering the respect for the Transhumanist Party and turning it into a real candidate of positioning in the political scene, I think is critical for the world. When we look at the core values and we look at a science-based society, this is what government should be delivering on. This is innovation, this is reindustrialization, this is cleaner technology, this is better technology for the world. When we watched the last debates, we looked at debates about women's health. We looked at debates about healthcare. We looked at age-old, 2 decades-old debates, the doing and undoing of principles of our society that were already written into law. We as humans and the planet can no longer afford these old conversations. We need to move forward. We need to create jobs through innovation. We need to educate our people. We need to move away from a punishment-based society. This is what everything is based on. We punish you if you step out of line. If you do something we don't like, we punish you. There's no future for that. That's psychopathy. That has been built into old generations, and it's old technology, even in the minds of humans. We need no tolerance for war, but we need to defend ourselves. We need to be prepared. We do not need to be pacifists in the future. We need to be prepared for AI and other technologies that are coming very quickly, and genetic engineering, which is actually my specialty. We have actually helped align and get investigators-led studies on longevity medicines all over the world, and I work on regulatory pathways all over the world. And I bring my agenda that I believe is right, which is the benevolence for the world and the humans in it, that we create a better society by using technology, that we don't go backwards in time into old debates that were already solved in the past, that we move forward into new technology and new debates and new conversations. Technology is outpacing us. And I think that everyone here would be much more impressed with medical science if they were at the forefront of some of these studies. It's moving as fast as AI, but it has no room to impress you because no regulatory body has streamlined a pathway to allow patients who are terminally ill access to these medicines. You're going to see over the next couple of years, countries that I've worked with that are bringing on new laws to allow access to these new technologies. You'll start to see the data pouring in that we can, in fact, affect biological aging. We can't reverse all of it yet, but we're working on that. And these type of core principles and agendas need to not be blacklisted or considered dark technology. This is the hope. This is the freedom of humans and every species on the planet. This is going to save our world, the biggest cell that we live in, that we rely on, our planet, and every cell in our body. This is the future. So I want to thank Charlie Cam for bringing me to the Transhumanist Party and making me do my due diligence to see that this is, in fact, on the right track. And we need to actually create a core principle that the people that we bring on emanate that, want to work with that and build on that, and that we don't get narrowly impressed into small agendas. That's not where the world needs to be. We need to make sure that we're not backing visibly in social media wars, regardless of which side. That's old thinking. War is old thinking. It's how we kill our children. Think about that. We can't even pass a proper clinical trial with regenerative medicine that has been shown to work for over 2 decades through the United States FDA, and we're paying to kill our kids. No more. We should not respond to that. That is not the future. That's not the future of this party or this world. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Liz, for your eloquent and insightful remarks. Indeed, I think we can see why during the 2020 campaign season, your remarks on behalf of the Transhumanist Party consistently gathered our highest view counts, because I think you are one of the most effective communicators in the longevity field and indeed in the transhumanism field today. And people see the importance of transcending these old debates, these old ways of thinking, these destructive ways of thinking, including, of course, the increasing proclivity toward war that we have been seeing, especially over the past 3 years. There are several major wars happening in the world right now, and unfortunately, we may be standing on the precipice of several others unless politicians and the general public heed the message that you articulated, that we need to focus not on destroying, but on healing, on solving the problems of disease and scarcity and death. I have grouped them in my prior writings under the label of ruin. So there are all of these forces of ruin, and war is definitely among them. And we transhumanists fight ruin. We support restoring what was there previously and maintaining what is there currently in terms of our lives, our infrastructure, our ability to progress, and of course, creating a better future that will give us opportunities even beyond what we have had thus far. So thank you very much, Liz, for those wonderful words. And now I would like to invite our current 2024 U.S. Vice Presidential candidate, Daniel Tweed, to offer his remarks. Please go ahead.
Wow, what a treat to hear our founder, Zoltan. And oh my gosh, what an articulate spokesman. I heard there's a thing people can do at talks where they pretend they have notes and they crumple them up. I had a speech prepared, I'm not going to use it. And that's like a little bit of speech theater, but I will talk off the cuff as well. I want to thank my running mate, Tom Ross, for choosing me in the old-fashioned style of the second runner-up vote getter becoming the vice presidential candidate. So that was, of course, we were the only 2 people running, so maybe it wasn't such a hard choice to do. But yeah, I want to echo everything that was said. What a great young party to be involved with. And I love the idea that we get a new crop of 18-year-old voters every year. And this really will energize us, because we are the party about life and sustaining, regenerating life. And old people may not get that as much as young people. So we're fortunate to have that time is on our side. We can say, well, it's kind of on our side and against our side, which makes it more and more important for generational knowledge to be transferred and for us to use these grassroots systems of things like, well, I'm a big fan of amateur radio. There's 3 million amateur radio people worldwide. And I think they are Bucky Fuller's crew of Spaceship Earth, that there are no passengers on Spaceship Earth. We're all crew. we're all mission specialists, and we all have specialties that we need to be archiving and sharing and getting better at. When I think of the transhumanism movement, there's a quote from Timothy Leary that I love, where he said, "LSD is a psychoactive drug that occasionally causes psychotic reactions in those who have not tried it." And you could say that transhumanism is a philosophical movement that occasionally causes deranged reactions in those that don't care to understand it. Is my audio breaking up? I'm having some
No, we can
Wi-Fi
hear you
issues
clearly.
Okay.
We can-
Okay. Great. So yeah, I'm again on the ballot here in Conejo Valley in Thousand Oaks, and I'm actually at the Thousand Oaks, the Westlake Village Conejo Valley Makerspace. Although they're a nonprofit and they do not support any political stuff, they don't want to get in trouble with their nonprofit status. So I just became a keyed member, so I have access to this great makerspace for 30 days for $150 a month. I'm hoping to recruit other people to pay for that thing. But makerspaces and repair cafes, and Zoltan kind of said we are the political arm of science, and one of the worst things the government at the federal level did was get rid of the Office of Technology Assessment. I think that happened in the late 90s, but gosh, do we need to bring back the assessment of technological impact, because we are at the choice of becoming Cosmo sapiens, an entirely new species. Right now we're Homo sapiens sapiens, and as Danny Sheehan says, who I hope can come to one of these Enlightenment salons, the next evolutionary jump is becoming Cosmo sapiens, to enliven the cosmos, because this is the cradle of mankind, spaceship Earth, but we can't stay in the cradle forever. And spaceship Earth is like a generation ship. We should become more interested in cryonics, because we might not get to solve the aging problem in time to take with us all the mission specialists that we need to become Cosmo sapiens. So I'm a 5-time now perennial candidate. If they had a 3 strikes law for running unsuccessful campaigns, I would probably be struck out, because I'm on the 4th time for city council and now 5th time at the national level as vice president. So it's been a great ride so far, and thank you all. We're gonna ride this spaceship as long as it goes.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Daniel. And I'm honored to be on the crew of this spaceship together with you, whether that be Spaceship Earth or the US Transhumanist Party spaceship. We are going to great places. And I appreciate all of the effort you have put in to your campaigns, because as Zoltan pointed out, winning is not even the main objective. Getting the word out there is the main objective, and you have certainly done that. You have taken the opportunity when campaigning for local office to speak about transhumanism and the Transhumanist Party and get an even further demographic exposed to transhumanist ideas than we could have reached online, for instance. And I would encourage people to follow Daniel's example, run for local office, contact us if you're interested in pursuing a city council seat or a mayoral position like Jennifer Hughes did in 2021 when she ran for mayor of Camden, New Jersey. And she challenged the Democratic Party monopoly over Camden for the first time in essentially 50 years, a half century. So there are some opportunities there to get our voices heard and to make a difference. And I'm also struck by how many of our speakers mention the next generation and the importance of bringing them on board, and how technology is already shaping what they know, what they can learn, how they can learn, and what they can contribute. And one of our viewers, John H., pointed out that perhaps it's not the raw intelligence that has increased with subsequent generations, but rather the adroitness with advancing technology due to familiarity earlier in their lives. But what can that familiarity enable them to achieve? So, for example, I was at a running race, a half marathon, earlier this morning, and I saw a family of runners whom I had known for a while, and now they have a son who is 7 years old and a daughter who is 3 years old. And the son is very much into Minecraft-like games and videos, and he is quite interested in building, and he has all of these virtual tools for building that people of my generation who largely played with Legos would have wished they could have had. And the daughter, who is 3, was asked by her mother, well, what is your favorite organelle? And she said, the endoplasmic reticulum. Imagine a 3-year-old talking about the endoplasmic reticulum. And the mother said, well, I thought your favorite organelle was the mitochondrion. And the daughter said, no, it's the endoplasmic reticulum. So she knew what she was talking about at 3. So that's just remarkable to me that these are the young people who are growing up. We need to get them exposed to transhumanist ideas sooner rather than later, before they have the opportunity to become cynical and disillusioned, before all of the toxic messaging from the mainstream culture gets to them. But also Generation Z, our friend Luis Arroyo, who is of that generation, mentioned Gen Z transhumanism. Yes, we need to bring more Generation Z people. Unfortunately, some of them have had the occasion to become cynical and disillusioned, but maybe we could turn those Gen Z members around as well, guided by those who have remained more techno-optimistic. So thank you very much, Daniel, for your remarks. And now I would like to invite Dr. Bill Andrews, who has been one of our strongest supporters all of these years, to provide his comments.
Well, thank you very much. As I always say, I think living is the greatest thing that ever happened to us. We should let it happen. I mean, I love living, and I just don't want to see living become any less lovable for anybody just because of this dumb thing called aging. And I'm not interested in just extending lifespan. I'm also interested in enhancing lifespan. And I'm glad to see that people like Liz Parrish are leading the way in that and providing treatments for extending lifespan, while I'm just doing the research to support people like Liz Parrish. I want to say 10 years ago, I was one of the 3 speakers at a major conference in South Korea, and that's when I first met Zoltan. And he and I were 2 of the 3 speakers, and that's when I really first learned about the Transhumanist Party. But it wasn't until just now that I realized that the party had just begun. I didn't know 10 years ago that the party was just beginning at the time, but I got really excited about that, and that's when I pretty much joined the party. As I said, I want to extend lifespan and enhance lifespan. But there's things that we have to worry about, because just coming up with medical cures for slowing down aging or reversing aging isn't going to make us live a lot longer. We have to do other things too. And one of the things that I like most is the idea of whole brain emulation coming along soon in the future. I mean, if you're driving your car and you lose control and your car goes off a cliff, someday, soon I hope, your brain's going to get uploaded to a computer before the airbags even open. And then people are going to take cells from your broken up body and make a clone out of you. And then shortly thereafter, your brain's going to be re-uploaded from the computer back to this clone body, and you'll be still living again. And I think that's something that really has to happen. In the meantime, I don't know how long these things are going to take, but there's a tremendous number of disabled people in the world, and we really need to really figure out a way to develop good prosthetics and things like that to allow these people to live normal lives. And one of my really big concerns is what's called the silver tsunami. The silver tsunami is where very soon there's going to be so many people over the age of 65 and so few people under the age of 65 that there's not going to be enough people to care for all the people that can't take care of themselves anymore, unless we find a cure for aging before then. But if we don't, we're going to need something like robotic caregiving. And this is one of the things that I promote a lot, is the idea. I mean, it'd be nice if people that are disabled and or let's say too old to take care of themselves, they don't become a burden on their families. And by having robotic caregiving, in-home robotic caregiving, would enable this whole business of being disabled and too old to not be such a burden on families again. Because I can tell you, lots of studies have shown now that caregiving is a great accelerator of aging. So even not the old person or disabled person is suffering, but even the caregiver is suffering because it's accelerating their aging. But one other thing that I'm really looking forward to is medical nanobots to start treating diseases. Not everything is going to be cured by aging. There's just a whole lot of things on the list of things that I can see from the Transhumanist Party, and that's everything I just mentioned is part of what the Transhumanist Party is all about. I've been a member. I didn't know since the day it started practically, but I'm always going to be a member of the Transhumanist Party, and I recommend that everybody join. And thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Bill, for those remarks. And we are honored to have had you as a member so early in our history. And also, I will point out, you and Liz Parrish originated this concept of best choice medicine, which we strongly support, which would empower patients to choose emerging medical treatments with informed consent, even before those treatments have gone through various FDA review processes, if it's possible that those treatments could benefit the patients or save them from adverse health conditions. And I think this is a choice that all of us ought to have when we determine the course of our medical care, because it could very well affect whether we live or die. Dr. Dan Elton, our Director of Scholarship, has joined us in the chat. He remarks that whole brain emulation could make humans more competitive with AIs, and the Foresight Institute is funding some work to help accelerate the advent of whole brain emulation. So thank you for those observations, Dan. And Vance Refrigeration writes, along with the silver tsunami, Western culture is not primarily focused on caregiving for family members. And I think this is why the idea of the robotic caregivers is so important. It would alleviate both the strain on human caregivers and also respond to this perhaps unfortunate lack of cultural focus, but at present it is what it is, and there are so many people who are elderly or infirm who need this kind of care and who need it sooner rather than later. And Mike Lazine also writes about robotic caregiving being an actual thing in Japan, and we Americans need to follow suit with that. And indeed, it is interesting how Japan is beating the US in certain realms that could be considered transhumanist, even though the explicit term transhumanism isn't as familiar in Japan. But Bill, I know you got an excellent reception whenever you have spoken in Japan. It seems that the Japanese audiences really resonated with what you were saying. And I think also your remarks show the breadth of transhumanism, the fact that we are about curing aging and radical life extension, but we are also about all of these other areas, advances in AI and automation and nanotechnology, and applying those to the societal problems that we face and that may be increasing in the future. But this is indeed the party for holding these kinds of discussions and for exploring the ways in which all of these areas of technologies integrate if applied wisely. So thank you very much for your remarks. And now we also are celebrating International Longevity Month. International Longevity Day was on October 1st of this year. And on International Longevity Day, there was an event in Madrid, the Transvision Madrid conference, our friend Dr. Jose Cordeiro organized this conference. And you may recall last year during our International Longevity Day stream, Jose presented on the march that took place in Madrid that year, which was remarkably successful. And now we have an update from Jose about the events in Madrid this year. So, Jose, please go ahead.
Well, first of all, congratulations to the US Transhumanist Party. And I have been helping in any way to Istvan Zoltan when it began, and now you, Gennady, and the next presidential candidates next month for the US election. But I also want to let you know and bring the international perspective. This is a global movement. There are also transhumanist, longevity, immortalist, and futurist parties in other countries. In fact, in Spain, my friend Sergio Terrero, he founded the first transhumanist party, we think, in the world, 1 year before the US Transhumanist Party, also in October. In fact, tomorrow we are celebrating 11 years of the Spanish Transhumanist Party called Alpha. You know, Alpha, the beginning, the first letter in Greek, because the party is called Alianza Futurista, Futurist Alliance. So we have this party in Spain. We have parties in other countries. Actually, in Russia, there was a transhumanist immortalist party also. And for the previous European election, we had 3 longevity parties running in 2019. We had the Longevity Health Research Party in Germany. We had the longevity movement in the United Kingdom, but the United Kingdom now is out of the European Union because of Brexit, so that movement is gone, at least for now. And in Spain also, we had a futurist movement. I was the candidate for the European election. That was in 2019. We just had elections now in June, also 2024. And we also had 3 movements, 3 parties. We had a new party in France. So we had a transhumanist candidate for the European Parliament from France. I was running here from Spain. And we also had the Longevity Health Research Party in Germany. So we had 3 candidates again in this last European election. Sadly, in Russia, because it's difficult to compete in the current situation, the Transhumanist Immortality Party of Russia did not participate in their local elections. But anyway, so we are very active politically also in Europe and outside Europe, like now Britain or Russia. And we keep on pushing these ideas. And for October 1st, International Longevity Day, we had a great event. We had about 25 speakers, 5 international and 20 local from Spain. And we want to show 3 short videos of about a minute each. One is the march, the rally for longevity in Madrid. Another one was the opening of this conference in the most beautiful theater of all of Spain, which happens to be the theater of the College of Medical Doctors. We are working with medical doctors on longevity. So this is very emblematic, very important. In the center of the Medical College of Spain, we had this beautiful event, and you will see how fantastic that auditorium is. We had about 500 people, both in the morning and in the afternoon, so it was incredibly successful. And then we also had the premiere of a documentary that is coming out in a few days called Longevity Hackers. In fact, some of our friends here, like Bill Andrews, I believe also Liz Parrish, and some of us, also me, appear in this documentary. We did the world premiere in the College of Medical Doctors in Spain, where I recorded my interview. And this will be coming out in the next few days in Amazon and Apple TV. So you will be able to watch this 2-hour fantastic documentary narrated by Oscar nominated Edward Norton and produced by Emmy Award producers. So it really is a top quality. It's the best documentary so far, I think, on longevity, and it's called Longevity Hackers. We did something else. We were going to have the longest living person in the world with us, who was Spanish. She was 117 years old plus 168 days young. I don't say old, young. 117 years plus 168 days young. Sadly, she died over a month ago, so we could not have her with us. But we awarded to her the Guinness World Records certificate as the oldest living person in the world until she died. So it was a day full of incredible activities. And now let's check these very short clips. So Gennady, begin with any of them. One is the conference, one is the march, and one is the documentary.
Primero de octubre, Día Internacional de la Longevidad. A pedir más apoyo a la investigación en longevidad. ¡Viva la vida! ¡Viva! ¡Viva España! ¡Viva! ¡Viva la juventud eterna! Bueno, de aquí, del centro de Madrid, del kilómetro cero, vamos a ir ahora al Congreso de Diputados. ¡Olé! ¡Stop envejecimiento! ¡Stop envejecimiento! ¡Stop envejecimiento! ¡Stop envejecimiento! ¡Stop envejecimiento!
No solo para los ricos, todos podremos volver a ser jóvenes. Estamos muy cerca de conseguirlo y la ciencia está a punto de conseguir que todos podamos retroceder nuestra edad.
Pasamos el micrófono al presidente de la Alianza Futurista, Sergio. Yo me gustaría mencionar a los poderes del Estado español, en este caso al gobierno dirigido por el señor Pedro Sánchez, en sus fuentes de gobierno, por no hacer más para visibilizar este problema, para activamente tratar de resolverlo. Hoy nos reunimos para que todos los gobiernos del mundo consideren al envejecimiento y la vejez una enfermedad curable.
Si no luchamos por ello, solo las personas más ricas tendrán acceso a este tipo de terapias.
¡Fuera la muerte! ¡Stop envejecimiento!
Nos vamos, aquí empezamos con la lucha, unidos o morir.
¡Vámonos al colegio de médicos a curar el envejecimiento!
Okay, as you saw, we were shouting "Stop envejecimiento," which means stop aging. We had beautiful balloons like this, all of us, and we had T-shirts also saying "Stop envejecimiento," and in the back saying that we are the last mortal generation and the first immortal generation. So we had a lot of impact. That was for the rally. I repeat, in the Congress of Spain, in the City Hall of Madrid, and in the state government in Spain. So it was really impactful. And we gave the Declaration of Madrid for Longevity to the mayor, to the state governor, and to the deputies of the Congress of Spain. So let's go with the next video, please. 2 minutes.
Y estamos en este lugar tan hermoso, tan emblemático, para celebrar por primera vez el Día Internacional de la Longevidad aquí en Madrid. Este evento que vamos a hacerlo anualmente y queremos proponer, de hecho, de que Madrid sea la primera zona sur de España. Tenemos una cantidad de ponentes del más alto nivel, tanto internacionales como españoles, como van a ver. voy a mencionar los internacionales: Aubrey de Grey, Brian Johnson, el biohacker que está más famoso del mundo, Natalie Holt, la experta en supercentenarios, Alejandro Campo, él es español, pero como vive en Suiza, llega esta tarde de Ginebra, lo ponemos entre los internacionales, y William Falun de la Life Extension Foundation. Más luego, esta mañana tenemos médicos de maravilla, tenemos al presidente de la Real Academia Nacional de Medicina, el doctor Eduardo Díaz Rubio, tenemos al famosísimo médico admirable, fundador de la Clínica Centro, Pedro Guillén, tenemos también a la directora del CENIO, María Blasco, bueno, gente del primer nivel de España. Y esto obviamente lo estamos haciendo gracias al apoyo de los patrocinantes que nos ayudan para esta sesión. Aparte, obviamente, del ilustre Colegio Oficial de Médicos de Madrid y también el apoyo de la Real Academia Nacional de Medicina. Esto es una iniciativa internacional de International Longevity Alliance. Estamos celebrando en todo el mundo el Día Internacional de la Longevidad.
Okay, I hope you see the excitement and the beautiful place, the most beautiful classical theater of all over Spain, 2 centuries old, like the College of Medical Doctors of Spain, including the president of the Royal Academy of Medicine of Spain. So really fantastic with the top people, which is important to have credibility, to have recognition. And we showed the premiere of Longevity Hackers. So let's watch that video also, fantastic video.
Okay, Jim, are you ready?
I guess I'm the litmus test for how far you can take it in terms of being active and being over middle-aged.
We're the first generation on the planet that understands what makes us age.
You could take an old cell and turn it back into a seemingly young cell.
This future sci-fi situation is very close to us.
We have the tools today to extend our healthy lifespan. We just need to apply it.
I mean, here I am in my 60s feeling better than ever.
The majority of diseases are just due to the underlying aging process.
It's an incredibly difficult, complex field.
Increasing the healthy lifespan of people around the world is the greatest benefit we can give to humanity.
I'm actually doing better today than I was 20 years ago.
Things are going to be exponential.
The more you dig into it, the more you see how real it actually is.
And hopefully one of these things clicks.
If FDA will recognize aging as disease, it's going to be a massive inflection point for all of us.
I'm very excited. I think that aging can be cured a lot faster than most people are projecting.
I slowed my speed of aging by the equivalent of 31 years.
The prospect of living up to 200 years is really nothing.
So don't do anything stupid to die today so you can take advantage of the technologies that are coming up in the future.
And what we're seeing there is that people's dogs are going from old dogs to puppies again.
Longevity is learning how to take away biochemical stress.
What gives you a feeling of peace and what gives you a feeling of centered?
To me, aging is just being who you are, regardless of what the number is.
A good diet and exercise will help you avoid a lot of disease, but it's truly not enough.
Aging is a disease that we must treat like a disease,
and there's many things that we can do now to slow that process down.
And then you not only live longer, but you live stronger.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw reversal of aging in every way imaginable.
I want to live fast, die never.
It's wild. If we can imagine it, we can make it happen.
This shit works.
Well, I hope you get excited. This is the best documentary produced up to now on immortality. They talk about immortality at the very beginning. So, Longevity Hackers, so that we can become immortal. And I just want to tell you how happy we are, how excited we are. We are proposing Madrid to be the first blue zone of Spain, because Madrid is the capital of Europe with the longest life expectancy. And also Spain is the European country with the longest life expectancy among big countries, and only second in the world after Japan. Japan has the longest life expectancy in the world, and then Spain is second. among large countries over 10 million people. And Madrid again, Madrid beats Sardinia or Okinawa or Loma Linda in life expectancy. So to us, it's kind of funny that these places that are called blue zones have a lower life expectancy than Madrid. You know, the life expectancy in Madrid is 85.4 years, 85.4. That is more than Loma Linda in California, more than the Nicosia Peninsula in Costa Rica, more than Icaria in Greece, more than Sardinia in Italy, and more than Okinawa in Japan. So if those are blue zones, then Madrid should be a super blue zone.
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate all of these activities that are happening in Madrid, the march, the Transvision conference, and yes, this Blue Zone declaration. It is remarkable that a city like Madrid could have an average life expectancy, which is, I think, at least 8 years greater than the average life expectancy in the United States. And I'm not surprised, actually, that a city would have higher life expectancy than more rural places, because in a city, one can get to a hospital faster. One could get critical medical care more promptly. But there's also something about the lifestyle there that is worthy of further exploration, certainly. And Bill Andrews pointed out that everyone should also be aware that a march of this sort is in the process of being organized in the United States. The Coalition for Radical Life Extension will be organizing such a march to support life and health extension at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. It could happen either next year or 2026, depending on how long it takes to get it organized. The first time I heard an announcement of this sort was at RadFest this year in September, and I think it is a remarkably promising idea. It is an idea that all longevity, transhumanist, and adjacent organizations in the US should participate in. And if you are an international transhumanist, come visit the United States for that occasion, because we need to show up in large numbers to give politicians and the media an understanding that this is a cause that actually has considerable support from the population. Bill, would you like to say anything else about that? Jose, yes.
Just quickly, I fully support that, and I think it's a great idea, but you should try to cover different things. You should go to the U.S. Capitol. You should go to the White House. You should go to the Washington Monument, because they are all very, very close. Like our march lasted 2 hours. And in 2 hours, we went to the Congress, we went to the City Hall, and we went to the state government, because they are within walking distance. And actually, we got 2 police vehicles to protect us and 10 police officers with us through the march. So it was all very legal, and we had the support of the local authorities. And we covered, again, legislative and executive power. And you should do the same in Washington. As much power centers as you can.
Yes, I do want to say, I do want to add some stuff. Both Liz Parrish and I, along with Bill Falloon, are board members for the Coalition for Radical Life Extension. And there's a lot of effort right now to make this into something really good. And we want to have a lot of speakers come along, and Jose is at the top of that list. So Jose, I hope you can be part of that. And any advice you have would be greatly appreciated. I think everybody on this, looking over this list, everybody here that's on this speaker on this call today should be a speaker at this event. I think it's going to actually become quite a major event with all the work that I'm already seeing being put into it. So let's hope it makes a really big difference, because as a lot of us know, too many people are not aware of how important this stuff is going, and they're not aware that it's actually going on. So hopefully this will make a difference, and just like Jose's events have.
Yes, absolutely. I think it will make a difference if many individuals and organizations gather in Washington, D.C. for this march. It will be an unprecedented kind of visibility for our movement. Consider that Zoltan's public relations action that garnered the most views was the conclusion of the Immortality Bus tour, when he went to the U.S. Capitol building and he tried to essentially temporarily attach the first draft of the Transhumanist Bill of Rights to the walls of the Capitol. Now, this was not an action that was officially allowed, so he had police officers essentially watching his every move, and they were telling him essentially, don't do this thing. But there were also journalists present, and Zoltan had the confidence that the police wouldn't react with excessive force when they were being filmed by all of these media representatives. So he did put the Transhumanist Bill of Rights against the wall on the steps of the Capitol building just very briefly, and then the wind prevented it from sticking. But that was enough of a PR moment that it really took the transhumanist movement to the next level. So imagine if we have thousands of people there marching, holding up posters and giving speeches and interacting with other members of the public. This would be literally several orders of magnitude greater of a phenomenon than what Zoltan did back in 2015. And it would show how much of growth has occurred in our movement and in the ideas of transhumanism and the pursuit of radical life extension. So Liz has shared a video from the Coalition for Radical Life Extension, which is a bit over 13 minutes long, but it explains the Rally for Longevity Rights and the plans thus far. I would encourage everyone to go to this link and watch it right after our Salon today. So thank you very much, Liz, for sharing that. And we also have some remarkably supportive viewers. So the Reneural Project has a super chat, and they encourage us to prioritize ending disability, which we do, by the way. Unfortunately, this individual has cerebral palsy, and they came to transhumanism because they were disappointed in the disability pride movement's investment in disability identity. End disability by 2050. I would say sooner if we can, because truly disability is what deprives people of ability. If we, most of us, have the ability of sight or hearing or motion, and some people don't, that should not be an aspect of pride for those people. That's a limitation. And some of them, through heroic effort, overcome those limitations and are able to lead high quality of life nonetheless. But still, if they didn't have those limitations, their quality of life would be much improved. So I completely agree. For all of those people who are disabled, the U.S. Transhumanist Party explicitly supports ending disabilities through advancements in technology, be they artificial prosthetics or regeneration of organs that have been damaged. And I really appreciate this sentiment. And also our friend John H. has contributed $1 for every year of the party's existence. This should encourage us to be celebrating our 1,000th anniversary someday. Thank you very much, John. And I think with all of our efforts, we can get there. For transhumanists, a 1,000th anniversary is not outside the realm of possibility. So thank you very much. And also, Dan Elton pointed out on the subject of whole brain emulation that the mapping of the fruit fly brain has been completed by the Flywire group at Princeton. So thank you for the news there, Dan. These fields of technology are progressing. We don't always see them in our everyday experience, but major scientific advancements are being made as we speak. And it is the job of the Transhumanist Party and the transhumanist movement in general to bring awareness of these advances to the general public and to give people a source of hope, a source of meaning and purpose in their lives. So thank you very much, Dan, for the news there. Does anybody on our panel want to make any further remarks about what we have discussed thus far? Let's see. Art Ramon.
I want to say this is the best meeting the Enlightenment Salon has ever had. I think this should be circulated as much as possible. And I was just wondering if Liz Parrish's video that she posted was actually posted to everyone or just the group that's on this call.
It was posted to everyone. Yes, because we shared the link through all of the platforms where this is being streamed. And again, please go watch this video here on vimeo.com after our salon concludes today. And Art Ramon, since we have you here and you are our Director of Visual Arts, you have been our Vice Chairman 2 times per our rotation. Please offer your thoughts about the Transhumanist Party, its past, present, and future, and anything else you want to say about the topics that have been discussed.
Yeah, I mean, when I first learned about transhumanism, it was through Zoltan. He was on a show 2014, I believe, called Red Ice Radio. So that's when I first learned about him. And at the time, I was 42 and was pretty fit at the time, doing a lot of kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. Several times throughout my life, I've kind of let myself go or suffered some injury that required a lot of rehab. And so at the time, I was very interested in what Zoltan had to say, kind of embodied what I've always believed, except it was more in sci-fi terms like cyborg or say cyberpunk. But transhuman sort of embodied what I've always believed about myself and how I would go forward as I aged. But I recently saw an article how there are 2 points in life where you have severe aging, and one of them is 44, and the other one is 60. So in my early 40s, I was still fit, but now that I look back, yes, as I got closer to 44, that's when I developed a lot of joint issues, and I could not continue doing jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. It was just too hard on my joints. And as I sort of got past that 44, that's when I switched over to hiking. And hiking in the severe heat seemed to have a bit of a therapeutic effect and help me sort of recover from all the joint injuries. So that's what I did. And that kind of sustained me until kind of late 40s. And then I hit another bit of a aging period there. And that combined with COVID kind of hurt me. Now I don't even do the hiking I used to. I do very pathetic hiking compared to what I used to do. But yeah, I mean, transhumanism and anti-aging efforts, definitely. That's what I want. That's what I'm hoping for. And one of the reasons I got involved with the party in 2020 was because of the lockdowns. I was like, can't go out and do the other things I used to do, so I'd have more time. So that's one of the reasons I decided to apply for the visual art position and get more involved with the party. And we had the lockdowns. We would do the salons, and I would participate. It was my way of sort of learning passively about a variety of transhumanist technologies. So that ways I wouldn't have to, actively go out and search for it. It would just kind of come to me being here at the center of things. So that's always been beneficial. And, going forward, that's this knowledge is beneficial for me because I need to plan out how I do things as I get towards 60. I mean, if I'm going to hit another peak at 60, I need to sort of plan out how I treat myself. And TRT is one of the things I haven't done yet, and I've heard a lot of people say it's really great. It helps you with the brain fog, helps you with the chronic fatigue. Which is one of the things I'm dealing with COVID long haul. But I kind of want to hold off on that until I get closer to 60, because I'm thinking 58 would be a good time to start on TRT and build myself up before I hit that 60, where you're sort of expected to do a lot of aging. So transhumanism is a movement. I'm hoping it grows. I'm doing my part. To tell others about it. I'm chairman of the Arizona Transhumanist Party, and I'd say it is difficult sometimes to speak with people on this. So that is a bit of a challenge. Some people aren't interested in anti-aging, but from my experience, it hits you hard. It limits you, physically, and everyone should be interested in it. The aging I've experienced in the past 10 years is significant. So I have to plan out my surgeries, and my joints are bad. My knee joints are pretty much gone. Hip joints are gone. My base of my neck is gone. Base of my spine is gone. I have to figure out what surgeries I want to do to keep myself going and keep myself fit. And before I retired, so when I have the money to actually do these surgeries, I've already done one surgery with my nose. I had a deviated septum, and I figured, stem cells aren't going to help with a deviated septum. I have to do surgical correction for that. And I did that, and I breathe a lot better now. So definitely, I'm here to support the party any way I can, and definitely I'm here to learn as much as I can and maintain my physical form going forward, because that's my priority is to keep living and keep making art. And hopefully when that retirement age comes one day and I can hopefully retire and just focus on art 100%, and then I'll have time to make more transhumanist themed art, which is sometimes I get criticized for not making enough transhumanist themed art, but right now I kind of make art which reflects my thoughts and my current circumstances. So yeah, you have something, Jose?
Yes, I love the book that you have on the top right in your background in your home, which is The Death of Death, which is now in 15 languages, a global bestseller. And I saw the book. So thank you so much. And yes, we need art. We need art and people working on this, because this is how people get excited. We need to get people excited. Science is fantastic. Technology is fantastic. But many people don't get excited by science and technology. But they get excited by art, by painting, by sculpture, by novels, by movies, like the documentary that talks about immortality, Longevity Hacker. So yes, congratulations, and thank you for having my bestseller in your background.
Yes, indeed.
You're welcome. And I did read the book in Spanish, so it helped me work out my mind and my mental plasticity. Reading it in Spanish, definitely a lot of words that I didn't recognize, and now I can read through it, and even though I don't remember the exact definition of every word, I can still grab the meaning from context. And it's but back in 2022, I did feel very well after doing some code therapy, and it almost felt like I was cured from COVID long haul brain fog, but it came back. Where was I? As far as surgeries, planning out my surgeries. I mean, I got to keep the body operational. I'm trying to hold out on certain surgeries like spine. Definitely don't want to mess around with the spine until I absolutely have to. joint surgery, maybe the better ones. If I could hold out another decade or so, or 5 years at least, so that technology improves. But definitely, art. I'm trying to make smaller art so that I can make it quicker and possibly experiment with some more transhumanist themed art versus the current art theme that I normally work on. Definitely honored to be part of the group and always to help any way I can.
Yes, thank you, Art Ramon, and we look forward to seeing more transhumanist themed art from you. And you had some insightful remarks on our earlier Salon during the summer about essentially harnessing our humanity and the human capabilities of transhumanists. And you mentioned that your methods of artistic creation essentially are such that they cannot be rendered obsolete by advances in AI, though you are also quite a skilled user of AI yourself. And having these various media of art to convey the transhumanist message is, I think, crucial. Also, I think you have illustrated the predicament that Zoltan mentioned in his remarks, which is, while it's great that 10 years have passed, we are all 10 years older. So we have all experienced aging to some extent. Possibly the only person who hasn't on this panel is Liz Parrish. But I know that when Zoltan founded the Transhumanist Party, I was 27. Now I'm 37. And I think it's interesting because 37 does feel different. I have been doing a lot of running in between then and now, and I think to some extent it has served to stave off certain decline that would have been occurring, but nonetheless, I see it as a kind of funnel that narrows with age. And as long as biological aging continues, one can do certain things through lifestyle, like exercise, to put oneself on one side of the funnel, let's say a healthier side of the funnel or a higher performing one. So sometimes when I run races, I can still be faster than certain 20-year-olds, but the 20-year-olds have a built-in advantage of, I would estimate, about a minute per mile. And I have to work and train a lot harder to get to a certain running speed than a 20-year-old would right out of the gate. Perhaps with some learned discipline, I am able to have better results, whereas the 20-year-olds just haven't gotten there yet for the most part. But if they did, if they had the same kind of discipline and the same kind of training regimen that I have, they would be about a minute per mile faster, I would estimate. And I haven't reached 44 yet, so I don't know what will happen to me then, but I am hoping for some advances at the very least by my 50s that might spare me from the worst of it. But we need to accelerate scientific and technological progress to have that happen. And we have also been joined by Dr. Dan Elton, our Director of Scholarship. So Dan, thank you for your comments in the chat thus far, and I would invite you to share your remarks on the occasion of the U.S. Transhumanist Party's 10th anniversary.
Yeah, thanks, Gennady. Everyone hear me okay? Well, I figured I'd stop on for just a little bit to share a few things. Kind of tired today, but glad to be here. Well, I'll tell you my history with the party. I was in grad school out on Long Island at Stony Brook University in between 2010 to 2016, and there weren't really many transhumanists out there, but somehow I fell into the movement. I think reading Ray Kurzweil's book Singularity is Near in 2012 really is what catalyzed my interest. And so when Zoltan launched the party in 2015, I actually found out about it pretty pretty early on. And I'm very proud to say I was one of the early funders or contributors to his campaign on Indiegogo. And and then I kind of just stayed in touch with the party over the years. When I moved down to Washington D.C. area in 2017, I helped revitalize the DC Transhumanist Party, and we held a number of events before the pandemic. My whole philosophy or thinking here is that this party is really a vehicle for outreach, and of course, and proposing interesting policies that other people aren't proposing. Robin Hanson, who's a well-known transhumanist, cryonicist, etc., he has a great article where he explains that with in politics, you can think of it like a tug of war. You have the Republicans, Democrats, and there's big issues that they're always fighting about, right? And so you can think of it like a tug of war. There's tons of people pulling back and forth on each side. Well, what Robin Hanson says is if you can come in from the side and pull from the side, you can have a big impact. So if you're coming in from a different direction with totally new policy ideas that nobody else is talking about, that can have a outsized impact. And so I think that's, I think the Transhumanist Party is a vehicle for getting interesting policy ideas into mainstream. I think the Transhumanist Party was one of the first groups to talk about existential risk. So I give the party a lot of credit for that. And then FDA reform, right, has been a big focus. And I hope to continue, writing and talking about FDA reform. So anyway, those are just a few random thoughts. The other thing I wanted to share with everyone on the call is I just moved back down to the DC area. The reason I moved down here was for a new job at the NIH. So it's actually where I used to work. I was at NIH between 2019 and 2021. But then I moved up to Boston for a different job. But now I'm returning to NIH, and I'll be starting a new job there as a staff scientist. And I'm really excited about it because I'm going to have a bit more independence in this position to really plan out my own research agenda. So I'm hoping to focus on basically leveraging different types of data like EHRs, imaging, and genetics for personalized medicine and preventative healthcare. So I'm hoping to tie my work into the broader longevity movement with a focus on, again, preventative health care and risk prediction. And I'll be going to the Biomarkers of Aging conference in Boston at the end of October. The Foresight Institute's going to be organizing a Halloween party on October 31st in Boston. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then going to the Biomarkers of Aging event. Maybe I'll see some people there. I don't know. So yeah, those are just some comments I wanted to share.
Yes, thank you very much, Dan, for stopping by and sharing those remarks, and congratulations on your return to the NIH. Mm-hmm. I think you have the potential to do a lot of good there.
One other thing I wanted to mention is that I think these online events and online community is actually very important because there's, geographically speaking, the transhumanists and like-minded individuals who are thinking about these radical technologies tend to be concentrated in particular locations, right? So it tends to be the San Francisco Bay Area, which really is where all these people are concentrated, and then to a little bit lesser extent some cities like Boston, maybe London, and then of course Jose has his groups in Madrid. But where I am here in DC, there's not that many, so it's really nice to be able to connect with you guys online through these sort of events, and keep plugged into the broader community, even when there's not necessarily a lot of people, like-minded people around, right? I am hoping to work with Dylan Livingston at the Alliance for Longevity Initiatives, and also Ed Hudgens lives right near here, but where I live now. But other than that, there's not that many. So it's really just a great service that you've done here with these Enlightenment salons. We don't necessarily get a lot of people, but I think it's great for the people who do attend.
Yes, thank you very much, Dan. And of course, you have done several salons for us where you have recapped your impressions in great detail regarding the conferences that you attended. And that's a great way to broaden the impacts of those conferences to a much wider audience, including people who are geographically dispersed or unable to travel for whatever reasons. So I do hope you might be able to make a similar presentation on the Biomarkers of Aging conference. And if you can provide some glimpses into that Halloween party, that might be interesting as well. Daniel Tweed mentioned that the International Longevity Month coincides with the month of Halloween, and that might also give rise to some creative marketing opportunities. Charlie, you may recall we tried to get an undead constituency to support you in 2020. Of course, their greatest effect would have been actually showing up at the polls and trying to vote, but because of mail-in ballots, that didn't really happen. So I don't think they made very much of a difference as a result. But nonetheless, it was an interesting idea at the time to mention the undead constituency in the context of transhumanism. But Halloween in general, the color scheme is similar. So note the tie that I'm wearing. It's a transhumanist tie, but orange, black, gold, all of those are common Halloween colors as well. So there could be some interesting aesthetic types of approaches during this month. Also, I will point out, we had a great virtual Enlightenment salon with Robin Hanson, whom you mentioned. So please check it out. This was recent on August 25th, 2024. And now, about 3.5 years ago, we held this special panel on FDA reform that you organized and helped to moderate, Dan. And that, I think, is still one of the most substantive, if not the most substantive, discussion available on this topic. Though I would say the panel that happened at RADFest this September on FDA reform that Bill Andrews participated in was quite impressive as well. And Liz moderated that panel. I think it was the best panel that RADFest had organized or made space for. So, Bill, I wonder if you'd like to talk a bit about FDA reform and your efforts in that regard, your impressions of the RADFest panel as well.
Well, I want to mention that Desiree Cox was there too. And I actually made some comments about her, and I made comments about you during that presentation. But there's a serious problem that exists in this world right now, in the United States especially, and maybe other countries too. But it's like if you are suffering from a life-threatening disease, and you know of somebody doing some research, or you heard of somebody doing some research that could cure your disease, you aren't allowed to even try that. And you end up dying as a result because you didn't even get a chance to try something experimental. And that's a real big problem. Now, Liz Parrish did her master's thesis on best choice medicine. I think it's the best name. And I was blown away by her master's presentation, or master's thesis. And so she wanted to publish it and included me as an author. I'm honored to be an author on that paper about best choice medicine. But it's pretty much trying to reform the FDA and other organizations like that throughout the world that are standing in the way of being allowing people that have only one chance to survive and not being able to do it, and they die as a result. But the other advantages to it are that, you know, even though the goal is to treat the person and save the person, there can also be data generated from it that would be much better than animal testing. It won't necessarily be controlled because there's not going to be any placebo groups in those kind of studies, if somebody treats themselves with an experimental drug. But I think some of these people are so far gone that if they suddenly get cured, you don't need a placebo to show that it worked. And I think best choice medicine is going to be something that can solve a lot of problems. And during that presentation, which is available right now through the RADFest website, I mentioned several times the solution is best choice medicine. The solution is best choice medicine. And I think everybody should watch that. And I think it's definitely going to be a part of the march. And I think it's I just want to congratulate Liz Parrish on what a great idea this was and what a great master's thesis. And the publication is pretty good too. All right, that's all I have to say.
Yes, thank you very much, Bill. And we appreciate everything that you have been doing to advocate for best choice medicine, as well as the work of Liz Parrish in writing that thesis and, of course, moderating the panel. In terms of the RADFest website, it is radfest.com. So please go there, check it out, check out the plans for RADFest in 2025. Hopefully at a future Salon, we will have Jim Stroll and Joe Bardeen as our guests to discuss how RADFest is evolving and also provide more information on the Rally for Longevity Rights, but see what videos are available from the RADFest website from the conference this past September, because I was really pleased with it. I think the addition of these smaller breakout sessions was a great idea because it was possible to delve into subjects that interested particular subsets of attendees to a greater extent. So thank you very much for that. And Daniel, please go ahead with your comment.
Yes, you know, in the 50s, there was a big craze about building bomb shelters, and the whole civil defense movement seems to have kind of collapsed. But, you know, look at the dead in North Carolina, you know, just because they built houses that were apparently not suited for the environment they were living in. We should really be getting together with amateur radio people and makerspace people and building survival pods that are adaptable to, you know, the hurricanes on the East Coast, the tornadoes on the center of the country, and the earthquakes on the West Coast. I mean, and these things could also double as houseboat type habitats too. And actually, ART is part of a program where we're looking at putting habitats at the calmest and highest solar input part of the planet, which is the equator, where the waves don't get big. We have a community science, and I'm the community science director. So consider this the community science project for the planet is Sequatoria. And it involves, you know, do-it-yourself personal survival capsules, you know, and that's, you know, if you die, all your rights go away, you know, but there is freedom of movement apparently in the ocean if it's not available on land. So that's worth becoming involved in thinking about personal survival, do-it-yourself pods, and you could build these things, out of pallets and styrofoam and trampolines. People are constantly getting rid of these trampoline frames. I mean, the materials to build these are potentially just in the 4-digit range, and we could put out plans and kits. We don't need to sell finished products. So that would be a great community science project I'd like to propose on this 10th anniversary of the USTP. That's my comment.
Thank you, Dan. And Sequatoria has a website. It's sequatoria.org. And here is the link to access it and read more about it. And I would say it is important to fight death in every possible way. Bill had mentioned that during his remarks, but the fact is aging is not the only type of peril that can befall us, and natural disasters are one example. War, which Liz Parrish mentioned, is another example. Getting into a car accident is another example. Taking careless risks and getting killed by a discretionary activity is another example. And I have also pointed this out, especially for the younger viewers. Please don't take recreational drugs, because that's one way to really dramatically shorten one's life expectancy. Like the difference between dying at 30 of an overdose and living to at least 80 or so, even with the current state of medical care. So I do think it's important to focus on every possible way of avoiding death. I think Naveen Jain also said this in the documentary preview that Jose showed. Essentially, all of these advances are going to be available in the coming decades. So don't do anything foolish to shorten your lifespan right now. And yes, Mike Lazine, I did just do a PR statement about not doing drugs. So thank you for noticing. And we have some interesting comments from our audience as well regarding all of these international transhumanist endeavors. Luis Arroyo writes, imagine if all of these parties and organizations pulled off a united action. I think that can happen in the coming years, especially if in the United States we create a culture of these public pro-radical life extension, pro-transhumanist events. So let's see how this Rally for Longevity Rights goes, and see then if we could coordinate some sort of effort with our fellow transhumanists in Europe as well, and in other parts of the world. Also, in regard to motivations for getting people to support our movement, Luis writes that seeing the future one wants to live in or create can help a lot. And I will also point out William Gibson's statement that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So be on the lookout for examples of the future being already here with generative AI, for instance, and the capabilities that it can put at your fingertips, or going to these virtual Enlightenment salons where we will bring in some leading innovators to talk about their work and their research. And you will see it here earlier, much earlier than you will see it in the mainstream conversation. Also, I think it's important to pay attention to what inspired people to join our movement in the first place. So Mike Lazine said that he has been a transhumanist ever since he was a young person. He was interested in popular mechanics, popular science, and another magazine. He recalled the name. It was Omni Magazine, which he hadn't seen in years, but it was available when Mike was a kid. And there were proto-transhumanist types of publications or films or even computer games that were available when most of us were much younger, even when many of us were kids. And those are gateways into transhumanism. So not only do we need to create new art and new media ourselves, we should also think of creative ways to use existing cultural products to get people interested in transhumanism. And now we have 5 minutes left in this special 10th anniversary stream. I would like to open this up to anybody who has some comments to make before I make closing remarks of my own. But this is your opportunity. Jose, please go ahead.
Yes, I am very, very excited, as you have seen. I believe we live in magical times. We are between the last mortal generation and the first immortal generation. So we have to accelerate this process, both scientifically, politically, also socially, artistically. And that is what we want to do in other countries as well. We have to collaborate, the USA, Spain, Germany, Russia, because the biggest enemy of humanity is aging and death. The enemy is not Russia. The enemy is not the Martians. No, the Martians are not our enemy. They don't even exist yet. The enemy of all of humanity is aging and death. And we have to collaborate. We have to work together. We have to accelerate this, because every single day, 100,000 people die of age-related disease. 100,000 people. And in fact, in OECD countries, in advanced economies like the USA, Europe, Japan, 90% of the people, 90% die of age-related diseases. They don't die of the Martians, of climate change, of terrorism, of wars, of AIDS, even though some people die of that. But altogether, it's only 10%, while 90% die of age-related diseases. So that's the common enemy of humanity, and that is what we should drive forward all together.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Jose, for those remarks. And indeed, aging and death are common enemies. And sometimes it is useful to have a common enemy to rally people around. But it's so tragic that so often historically that common enemy has been some group of other people, and that has led to a lot of destruction. But if we can indeed create and advance this narrative of the common enemies being aging and death and the forces of ruin that I mentioned, that will also inspire people, and that will drive people to advance the kinds of technologies that we need to solve this problem of aging that is affecting all of us. If people considered it to be solvable, if people saw a sense of meaning and purpose in that, we would have an entirely different world. And that is the kind of world that the Transhumanist Party will strive to advance. And I want to thank everybody in our panel today, those who joined us earlier, such as Zoltan Istvan and Liz Parrish, as well as those who are still here, Charlie, Tom, Dan, and Daniel as well, Jose, Bill, Art Ramon. The quality of our people is what leads to our movement being able to metaphorically punch above its weight, so to speak, because we currently have about 4,400 members, and that is certainly a larger number than existed 10 years ago. When Zoltan started, really, there were 3 members of the Transhumanist Party, Zoltan, and then Rowan Horn, who was his videographer, and myself. Of course, Zoltan garnered a lot of publicity through kind of solo efforts, reaching out to journalists, driving the immortality bus. But this is truly a joint effort, and we need the brightest minds in the world to collaborate on this effort. And I think we do have some of the brightest minds in the world in the Transhumanist Party. We just need to continue reaching out to additional bright minds. And if you think you're one of them, please join us at transhumanist-party.org/membership. That is a way to start, though it is definitely not the only action that we would hope to see from you. There's so much that any given individual can contribute, and you can just see by the people who are here and their remarks and their involvement what it is possible to accomplish. when we set our minds to it. And Daniel is showing this QR code associated with our 10th birthday. So please scan that QR code with your phone if you can and see where it leads you. And in the meantime, I hope that we can all live long and prosper.